It's yet another day that the Lord has made. We should be glad and rejoice in it. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice unto the bright day that has come forth to receive those who are still living. Yeah. Yes, when I read this verse sometimes, it takes me back to the story of Babylon, where they said, rejoice and be hopeful, for the Lord shall deliver you from the hands of your captives. But in this generation I wonder who now are the Babylonians, because those were the times of Nebuchadnezzar. And when I go through the books in the Bible thoroughly, I figure out that Babylonia is just a terminology for those people who don't want justice to reign, who don't want fairness, equality, and equity to take place. We can call those Nebuchadnezzar and Babylonia. And I believe there is no one who is incapable of changing. If God, in the story of Nebuchadnezzar, lifted Nebuchadnezzar to his heights, then shatter him to the downfall of becoming the animal of the jungle or living with the animals for 7 years, he can also change the minds of those people who think they are unbeatable. So, when we think about our situations in the African nations, today I highlight 2 nations, of which is South Africa and South Sudan. Because if we remember the legacy of the warriors of independence, they wanted a life of existence in free will, as long as they abide by the regulations of humanity. They exist together despite the many tribes, ethnicities. And as I remember the story of Nelson Mandela, suffering in that Robben Island for 27 years, and then I imagine the South Africa of today, if we would have to travel back in time and revive Nelson Mandela to the present day South Africa, what will be his first reaction? Of course, he will lament, saying that, what a waste of energy. I had to put myself through many things just to deliver this nation at the end for it to shatter with the same thing he was fighting for. And this is a great kind of trial for the OAU, the Organization of African Unity, and the frying of the Pan-African movement. Because what the OAU is standing for and Pan-African is standing for is not what is happening in South Africa. A brother terminating a brother, where in the eras of Nelson Mandela, he had to cross all the borders of Southern Africa, Central Africa, all the way to the Eastern Africa, to Tanzania, to Addis Ababa, to Egypt, Libya. If this spirit that is invading South Africa now was existing back then, would we have had the independence that we are proud, saying that, we are independent, yet we are fighting our own selves? And you remember when Jesus was performing miracles, and the Pharisees said that he is using the powers of Beelzebul. And he said, the devil that is fighting its own self, its kingdom will never come to stand. And now this is the same saying that should be applied to Africans. The more you fight your own selves, the more your kingdom come to shatter. And without thinking, South Africans have sorted to just calling anyone an alien, despite being their neighbors. And they forgot that once upon a time, there was a time their fathers were aliens in those very same nations during the eras of apartheid. So instead of carrying that ego, South Africa, you will learn to carry the will. Because an ego will shatter, and then the truth will be revealed. But your will direct you towards the truth. In those countries you have terminated their citizens, you also have your people in those nations. You also have your embassies in those nations. What a shame if you terminate your brother and still your brother is in the other brother's compound. Letting that go, we know that economy is something that nobody brought about. It's just we need the solution to combat this economical crisis rather than fighting ourselves. And one day you will find that the way you are restricting the other nations from accessing your land at the time of need is the same way you will be restricted at the time of your need. So it's like digging your own grave, which one day you will be buried in it. So think about the legacy of Nelson Mandela and the forefront members of the Nkonto Wesizwe. They said, whoever wants to stay, let them stay. Whoever wants to live, let them live. But we should live as one nation, despite the different ethnicities that we have. And therefore, South Africa existed. And now that vision is torn apart. Is it going to survive? Is the OAU going to be silent? Is the Pan-African just looking on the sideline? Or are they going to intervene? Let's shift from South Africa and we go to South Sudan. Because I think there is something wrong with the word South. If we are called South, it means we are the bottom of something, as per the compass. And that's why the Southerns are almost the people who struggle with much. And now if you see the state of South Sudan, all over the world, the name South Sudan is familiar to any person, not because of any good fame, but because of the nasty deeds that we have revealed to the world, or maybe shown the world the people we are, the incapable people, the separated people, the unequal people, the people who don't follow justice. And it's just because of a simple error, the whole name rolls in mud. And it's our duty now to try and see how we can clean the name. And once your name is stained, it will take much energy, many detergents for you to make it clean, and many fragrance to make the aroma of the name smell good again. And therefore, still it goes to the Pan-African movement and the Organization of African Unity. Are they going to watch just on the sidelines and witness the downfall of the African brothers without intervention? What is so hard if we were united as the Africans looking forward for one African nation to deal with these simple problems that are inflicted by the smallest of the nations, because the work of these movements is to try and bring reconciliation and solutions to places where they need them. So much talking we have been doing since generations that passed, but this should be the era of action, the era for the rise of youth to make the change. Always a father is traumatized by what they are going through. And it's for us, the youth, not to accept their trauma to infiltrate our mindset. Because if we accept the wrong inheritance, then we inherit the wrong name. But if we abandon the hopelessness, the uselessness of the inheritance of tribalism, ethnicity, and the majority the mindset and superiority mindset, then will we be called a nation in peace, justice, fairness, equality, and equity. And therefore, South Sudanese youth, you have the capability of changing things. But there is this thing which is talked in maybe the book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verse 16, and 22, verse 13, about the fear of trying, the fear of making the move to reconciliation. Because we have been entangled in the fear of our cultures, the fear of the rules that were put down by a certain man who had a rotten mindset, and we are still following, disregarding the humanity, doing all nasty things to our mothers and sisters, our weak brothers, and our old parents, despite knowing what true humanity is, what true justice means, what equality and equity means. And there is nothing that comes easily, or there will never be a miracle saying that, God will bring a good governance from heaven. It's for us to embrace the book of Proverbs and act upon it decisively to change our hearts and our mindsets towards reconciliation, love, and unity. And we will have a good land in our exposure. Because as you see, the land of South Sudan, we are starving of hunger while we have the fertile lands where we would have even been able to feed the whole Eastern Africa on our own if we were given the capability of doing the agriculture as a nation. But because of simple mindsets of divide and rule and compromise the economical status for them to create dependency, we are fallen into the trap. And now because your father is part of it, you say, I have nothing to do with it. But still, that haunts your soul, spirit, and your pride as a citizen of the nation. Now, hiding all over the world, when you mention your name, they will ask, from which part? And that shame of saying, I'm from this part, is pursuing you. Even though you are carrying the pride, still, that shadow of shame will haunt you until you accept the truth and come to the realization that we need reconciliation, unity, for a better justice, fairness, equality, and equity in the continent of Africa.